Call to order the April 21st, 2026 meeting of the Indiana Alcohol and Tobacco Commission. I will note that we have a quorum with 3 members present in person. Next item on the agenda, the disposition of minutes from the April 7th, 2026 meeting.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, we've received a copy of the minutes of the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission meeting on April 7th, 2026. I move to accept the minutes as presented.
Second. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item, hearing judge recommendations.
Jake,
Prosecutor's recommendation. Oh, I'm sorry, prosecutor's recommendation is next.
whatever word you want.
Prosecutor's recommendation.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, we received a report from the prosecutor's office on collections and fines. There were in this recent period 70 alcohol or tobacco fines collected for a total of $46,150. Several of those are worthy of note. They all involve tobacco permits. First is in Martinsville, Morgan County, M Town Smoke 420. An undercover investigation revealed the sale of nitrous oxide and synthetic urine, along with in the store were smokable hemp products. The result of that was a violation for nuisance. Parties have agreed to a $1,000 civil penalty and 7-day suspension of the tobacco permit. Under the second comes from Indianapolis, 20 past 4 or more. Tobacco store excise conducted a permit visit and discovered hundreds of smokable hemp products, both pre-rolled and flower form. The result of violation was written for nuisance. Parties again agreed to a $1,000 civil penalty and a 7-day suspension of the permit. Third comes from Columbus, Bartholomew County, Cloud 13 Vape, indicating a visit. And at that visit, the excise discovered different brands and types of hemp flower. Also, we were not only on the shelves, but stocked. They collected 300 smokable hemp products. Parties agreed to a $1,000 civil penalty and a 7-day suspension of the tobacco certificate. The last comes from Vigo County Terre Haute Pink Project LLC. Inspection revealed Zyn nicotine products that were suspected to be counterfeit. There were 5 teams verified by Philip Morris Company. Violation again for nuisance and a $1,000 civil penalty, 3-day suspension of the tobacco certificate. I move the acceptance of the prosecutor's report.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next is the hearing judge recommendations. There's one today. It's RR 49400045 Miami's Garden LLC. This comes on with those findings of fact.
Madam Chairman, I heard this case, this appeal some time ago. Miami's Garden LLC doing business as Miami's Garden at 7102 Woodland Drive, which is just off of 465 on the west side near Pike High School. The facts revealed that they opened the permit and began business in the summer of 2003. It was a full service restaurant providing dine-in options, carry out and delivery services. The permittee admitted that this was their first business venture, that neither the permittee nor the general manager had experience in running a bar or restaurant. That was again in the summer of 2023. In November of 2024, they had 4 violations that include sales after hours, removing containers after closing, floor plan alterations, and hindrance of law enforcement and public nuisance. Those were all settled and resolved, and a corrective action plan was submitted that was actually appropriate, talking about new and more off-duty law enforcement security, both in the building and in the parking lot, emphasizing de-escalation, no in and out permits, scanning IDs and active maintain list of those who are banned, and the patrons searched by wand and other means. the permit location was visited, that was in 2024. There were 4 visits by excise in the calendar year 2025, and no violations were discovered, which means that for a year after these violations were both occurred and resolved, they had no violations. Even though that was the case, the findings indicated, and I'd like to read those. Operation of alcohol permit is not designed or intended to be a learning experience or a trial to see how it goes. The sale of alcohol is detailed and specialized business, and the failure, once the permit is approved, properly operate and comply with state laws and rules and regulations of ATC is a serious and potentially dangerous operation. In spite of that, though, the more than 1 year of not having any other problems after they resolved those was on my mind. And based upon that, I'm recommending that we renew the permit for 1 year with the understanding that the corrective action plan that was provided and implemented and the concerns expressed have been resolved, and a referral to the PACE program would be a help to this permittee. Again, no violations for over 1.5 years after some significant problems. And I move that you accept the proposed findings of fact and conclusion clause under RR 49-40045 Miami's Garden LLC, DBA Miami's Garden.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? I would just note, I think I've made on the extensions, my position clear. I have serious concerns with keeping the same manager in place. Testimony was that he now knows 7.1, Title 905, that he's capable of complying. I'm not sure I got a great understanding of what trainings he's received, but he does have an attorney now, so that's good. I appreciate the ban list, the off-duty law enforcement, the new security company. I was a bit concerned during the hearing that their testimony about staying open on All-Star Weekend was that they didn't know we were going to enforce that seriously. I will say that we enforce Title 7.1, and the day a permit is granted, permittees are expected to fully comply with it. The recommendation is for 1 year. For me, that's going to be strict compliance, whether it's retail to retail, whether it's any other violation. This is, in my mind, this grant of a 1 year renewal is saving a permit that I'm not sure we should necessarily be saving, but giving them the benefit of the doubt. Based on your recommendation as hearing judge, having listened to the hearing, but it will be for me a strict compliance, and we'll be in here for a revocation hearing if they don't follow 7.1 and 905. Their sworn testimony is that they're prepared to comply and follow the law, so that's what we'll expect. So with that, I'll be voting yes, but it will be a very hesitant yes with a very short leash on how they behave moving forward. I appreciate the PACE designation, but it's not excise's job to babysit and educate permit holders. When they apply for that permit, they're getting the privilege of the permit, but that goes with compliance. So I'll be a very hesitant yes on this.
Well, I agree with you 100%. This was very close to me, but I will point out that the owner is a female of the permit, and the general manager is her ex-husband, which tells me that there's some special relationship here that hopefully they have learned. And I was impressed with the fact that she trusts her ex-husband enough to help with running the facility. So but I agree with your statement on strict compliance.
I guess I look at that the opposite. She trusted him, and look where we went. So continuing to trust him is a choice she's making as the owner, but I'll be a hesitant yes. All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next is consideration of applications, 498 renewal applications.
For renewal. I incorporate by reference this list of 498 applications for renewal, which have been recommended by local boards and reviewed by our staff with the authority of the commission. Hereby move for approval of the same pending any needed escrow hearings. Inclusion of this list in the minutes of this meeting today, April 21st, 2026.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. 48 new and transfer applications.
I incorporate by reference this list of 45 permit applications for a new permit or applications for changes of ownership or location of both of the current existing permits, which have been recommended by local boards, reviewed by a commissioner, and hereby move approval of the same pending a final floor plan approval by the state excise police and an escrow hearing if needed, and inclusion of this list as part of the minutes of the April 21st, 2026 hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. 37 catering applications.
I incorporate by reference of this list 37 permit applications for catering and hereby move for approval of the same and inclusion of this list as part of the minutes of the April 21st, 2026 meeting.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. 58 direct wine shipper applications.
Finally, I incorporate by reference this list of 58 new and renewal direct wine shipping permits and hereby move approval of the same and inclusion of this list as part of the minutes of the April 21st, 2026 meeting of the committee.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Waivers of fees for letters of extension.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I move approval of the waivers of fees and letters of extension that has been presented to the commission.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Items for discussion. DL 4932456, BP 51 Incorporated. This is a renewal with local board voting 2-2. And we have an extension request before us.
This comes to us from Marion County. It's a grocery store. It did expire April 1st of 25. It did have 3 violations for selling illegal nitrous oxide. On March the 3rd of 26, we remanded this to the local board to review business improvements and the corrective action plan. On April the 6th of this year, there was a local board hearing. It was stated that one of the owners had been spread too thin, wasn't spending enough time operating this business. And now the second owner has taken a much more active role. There have been no further violations since this new owner has taken the more active role. I will note that the local board, there was a vote of 3-1 to begin with, and then the vote by the members of the local board was changed to 2-2. I'm gonna move for the approval of the renewal for 1 year. And I don't think the extension is needed, so I don't think we need any action on the extension. And that is for BL 4932456 VP 51 Inc.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? I will just say I'm going to be a no vote. Nitrous is dangerous. If you choose to sell that to Hoosiers, you're choosing not to be a good partner for Hoosiers. So on the nitrous issue, I'm going to be a no vote. I don't know that if you choose to sell nitrous, I don't know that you need to be selling other intoxicating substances as well. So with that, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. No. Motion passes 2-1. Next item for discussion is RR 49385051 OHSR Enterprises LLC. This is a renewal with the local board voting 3-1 to approve.
This also comes to us from Marion County. There was a denial. It was overturned on appeal. On that appeal, order, it stated that they should get a 1-year renewal. It was before the local board this year because of the renewal with violation. They did recommend by 3-1 vote to approve. And I'm going to move that we uphold the approval of the renewal for 1 year for RR 49385051 OHSR Enterprises LLC.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? I would just note, I think you said 1 year. The grant back in February was for 1 year, so I think they would still be within that 1 year. So I will support a 1 year continuing on strict compliance. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is CH 4930097 Suki Entertainment LLC. This matter comes on with a renewal with the local board voting 3-1 to approve.
This also comes to us from Marion County. There was a local board hearing. Since that hearing has been held, there has been some new information that has come to light. Because of the new information, I believe a remand to the local board, as requested by the excise officer, by the excise over who deals with this local board. I'm gonna move that we have another hearing to look at the new information, and make sure, the information given was correct and everybody is qualified, that the restaurant qualifies for the renewal of this permit. So, remand to local board for CH 4930097 Suki Entertainment LLC.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Just that also count the one that Amy sent me a question. If Amy was questioning this one, she questioned the two term permit. The same owner, they both went to the local board. April 6th. They approved the two term.
You're right. That's what the confusion was at local board. It seems to be the continuing confusion.
We asked legal to maybe look into this, walk and put it later on the agenda.
Well, I think we'd have to, because that would have been in the 48 new and transfer applications, but I don't have the permit
No,
number.
it was approved at the last meeting. Those 9 time permits were actually on our last agenda, minus the one that had problems.
I think it has been approved, it's so it's not been placed into active use yet, it needs a final inspection. That the two-shed permit.
Got it. And that's why they were doing the final when the other statements came up. Can you look up that permit number where the,
And talk to Amy.
somebody with the. You're gonna, all right, let's,
Come back to that one.
yeah. Next item is RR 4938992 Indy Supermart Incorporated, renewal with the local board voting 4-0 to deny.
Yes, this permit also comes to us from Indianapolis. It was essentially operating as a packaged liquor store. They didn't have minimum food. They had carry-out displays. They had alcohol advertisements. They have tried to reconfigure the space to make it a restaurant, but the state space is rather small and difficult to meet the required restaurant configuration. They stated in the local board hearing that they would like to find another space or sell this permit. I do also want to note that there was a remonstrator That's the Near East Side Community Organization. They did remonstrate against. They said that the permittee has not upheld their agreements that were originally discussed to make this location desirable for the residents in the area. While some of that had to do with zoning and other things that are not issues that come before us, don't like for their character and reputation that they are not adhering to agreements with local board organizations. Because of these the issues of not being able to meet the restaurant configuration, I'm going to move to deny this permit and just note that this space shouldn't be used for an RR permit site. So deny the renewal for RR 4938992 Indy Supermarket Supermart Inc.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion?
I would just comment that having listened to the hearing at the local board, I was struck by two things. One, that there have been commitments made from 2022 that have not been upheld by the permittee. Those commitments having been made to the Northeast Side Consortium, different organizations. And second, that the remonstrator representing the Northeast Side Coalition, I thought was very straightforward and direct, and that they have no reason to continue to think that, to at all think that the permittee will uphold any promises or commitments, that after 2 or 3 years failing to comply with their commitments, regardless of who it was made to, there is an issue of moral character involved, and I support the motion to deny.
I will say that in our revocation consideration of this permit, I was already hesitant on whether to allow them to maintain the permit following a hearing where they referred to it as the packaged liquor store side multiple times in the hearing. After this hearing, after hearing from the local board members, this isn't a business they trust. There are character issues. They don't trust them to be truthful about their intent with what business they're going to operate. So I will be voting to uphold. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next permit for consideration is RR 9143148 Top Notch Good Guys LLC, transfer with the local board voting 3-0 to deny.
This comes to us from White County. There was a local board hearing on February the 5th. The one owner appeared and stated he was a 50% owner. He had paid cash for his share. He talked a bit about the other owner of the business. Our excise officer who sits on that local board brought up that this second owner had not been disclosed to us on the application, and that anybody who owns more than 5% has to be disclosed. It was also stated at that hearing that this second owner owns part of the existing permit at that business that's being transferred and hasn't been disclosed on that permit either. So we had questions about who the owners are, who owns the buildings, so that this was continued to a second local board hearing. That second local board hearing, which is March the 5th of 26, and this 50% owner came in and said that he gave wrong information, that he actually owns 100% of the permit, and that there are no other owners. He was questioned about what he purchased, and he stated that it was the permit and goodwill. They did question him as to how much he paid. He confidentially shared that with the local board members. It looked like it was a large number. He was asked if that amount included the building and the equipment. He said no, but it looks like that amount probably included the building and equipment because it was a large number. The local board asked for more information about the contract on the sale of this and financial records, to really get more at the heart of what was sold and who the owners are. So it was rescheduled for a third local board hearing, which was on April the 2nd. That was the final local board hearing. Then it was brought up that, well, maybe it actually hasn't been paid for yet, that there was a promissory note that was produced during this time. And there were financial records that were shared, but they didn't seem to support the testimony of the cash paid already. And there were still questions about the other owner. This other owner, who appears to be a false ownership case where one owner is not being disclosed with the current ownership and with the new ownership. And it could be because he has some criminal convictions, which would keep him from possibly being an owner. And it's difficult to know with the information that was presented. Further, the Secretary of State's documents lists 3 people who own the current permit, but we're only aware of 2. So a lot of questions about ownership with the current permit, the permit that's being purchased. False ownership issues definitely come to light. Because of all that, there was a motion or the local board voted 3-0 to deny. And I'm going to move that we uphold the denial for RR 91 43148 Top Notch Good Guys LLC.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to comment, my legal background, both as a lawyer and a judge, suggests to me that if you're not truthful, you don't deserve what you're asking for. And in this case, it just seems to me, having listened to their testimony, they kept trying to make sure that they would tell the truth. They worked very hard at it, all to get something that they weren't entitled to. I'm a firm no on this in terms of granting this, so I support the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next is RR 4543632, Danny's Banquet Hall LLC, requesting catering hall designation.
Yes, they are in the process of obtaining this permit, and they're asking for the catering hall subtype. We did receive a letter for that, and I move that we grant the catering hall subtype for RR 4543632 Danny's Banquet Hall LLC.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next is RR 1123795 Mario Bros Incorporated. This matter comes on for an extension request. We previously requested a corrective action plan, which as of right before the meeting, I received. I'll open that for discussion.
Yes, this permit comes to us from Clay County. It did expire on April the 1st of 2025. They have had 3 extensions from April the 2nd of 25 to June 30th of 25. We did ask for a corrective action plan when we issued that extension. We did grant a second extension on January the 14th of 26 to April 14th of 26. Again, we requested the corrective action plan. We issued another extension on April the 14th to April the 21st, and we asked for a corrective action plan again. They have had 4 violations in 10 years for signage, no employee permits, location operated by a retailer, bootlegging, no employee permits again, and bootlegging again. Don't like to see the same problems, don't like to see this many. Glad they finally submitted a corrective action plan. We did receive it right before the meeting today. I'm gonna move that because the violations are non-violent and because we just received the corrective action plan, that we grant an extension until May the 6th. And let us have a chance to review the corrective action plan and make sure it meets, all the, necessary items for the violations that they had received. So extension until May the 6th. That's part of the third extension, they had just received 6 days previously, so they're gonna receive another 15 day, or I'm sorry, 15 days until May the 6th. So, extension, review the cap that was just submitted, put that back on the agenda, make sure the cap is okay. If so, we'll extend the rest of the extension. And that is for RR 1123795 Mario Brothers Inc.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion?
I will admit for the record, I have not seen the cap. I reviewed these on the
Right.
weekend. I review these on the weekend. I spend my time going through them, listening to the videos, reading everything. I then again study it on Monday, and I look at it again when I get into here. I didn't see it, so I appreciate that we have the gas, but goodness, can't you do things sometime?
All right, with that, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next matter for, the agenda is RR 4938160 In Zone Bar and Grill LLC. This comes on for reconsideration of an extension following incidents, not this weekend, but last weekend at the location. We just granted them an extension at our last commission meeting based on their corrective action plan. Unfortunately, our officer only had snippets of the video until yesterday at about 12:30 PM. And after continuing to request it, finally did receive the full video, but not until about noon yesterday. So without that review of how the incident unfolded, I would move that we continue this reconsideration. Oh, and I will note, we received a document filed by the attorney for the permit holder as well, so that is part of our record. I'll move that we continue reconsideration of this extension 2 weeks, while the officer has time to review that video to determine how the event.
Until May the 6th.
Until May the 6th. Thank you, not 2 weeks, until May the 6th.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Again, I think we just received this late. I'd like it to be on time, and I hope that it's accurate in its details. You mentioned snippet. I don't know what that means, but I'm snippet. I don't know if that's only part or a little part or a big part. If the little part is left off, but I don't understand, how do you only give a snippet of the video? You have to work hard to only give part of a video. You either get the video or you don't. So I'm curious and anxious to find out why they only gave part or a snippet.
I will say the document filed by the attorney was in response to seeing this placed on our agenda, which would have been posted on Friday. So it wasn't more timely than that because it was in response to seeing the agenda.
Okay.
I agree. I don't know how the video systems work. But with that, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is RR 32404747, the Clack Shack Incorporated. This matter comes on for an extension request.
This is beer and wine permit in Clayton. It did expire January 17th of this year. There was the death of the owner. It is tied up in probate. We did receive some documents from probate, but didn't clarify all the items necessary to renew. It did receive an extension from January 18th, 26 through May 17th of 26, and it did have a letter of authority from April 18th, 26 to today, April 21st. While it works its way through probate and we get the necessary documents, I'm going to move that we grant a 90-day extension for RR 32404747, the Clack Shack Inc.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I'm in a surly mood this morning and talking as much. But looking at all of the extensions, it strikes me that there's almost an appearance that permittees feel they are entitled to an extension. And it seems to me they need to be more detailed in the request for extension in that form. In this case, I'd like to know more about probate court, when it was filed. I know we received some documents, when it was filed, when it is set for, what is the length of time that we're looking at. So I just ask permittees, when they are requesting extension, understand they're requesting, not demanding.
With that, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is RR 7632940, Over the Top Parties and Events LLC. This matter comes on for an extension request.
Yes, this is a 209 type permit from Fremont, Indiana. It did expire January the 5th. They had an extension from January 6th to April the 5th. They had a letter of authority from April 9th to April 24th. They are now scheduled for their local board hearing for the renewal on May the 7th. I move for a 90-day extension for RR 7632940, Over the Top Parties and Events LLC.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is RR 460175, Casey's Lanes Incorporated. This matter comes on for an extension request.
Yes, it's a 210 type permit from LaPorte, Indiana. It did expire December 17th of 2025. It had an extension from December 23rd, 25 to March 23rd of 25. We have not received their property tax document, that F1 document. We do need that before it can renew. And I move that we grant a 90-day extension for RR 460175, Casey's Lanes Inc.
That's subject to getting the tax documents.
And property tax.
Property tax.
Not revenue.
Okay. All right. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Just pointing out, well, it's not subject to getting the F1, they do need to be on that. The May tax date is coming up. Might cause you more issues if you're delinquent. With that, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is RR 1042431, Mustang Sports Club LLC. This matter comes on for an extension request.
Comes to us from Jeffersonville, Indiana. It did expire January 5th of 2026. It is a type 210 permit. We have received the necessary documentation at this point in time, and it has been scheduled for the local board on June the 4th. I move for a 90-day extension for RR 1042431, Mustang Sport Pub LLC.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is RC 7193 297 American Legion Pulaski Post number 357. This matter comes on for an extension request.
This comes to us from South Bend, Indiana. It did expire January 5th. This is a fraternal club type permit. It had a first extension from January 9th to April the 9th of 2026. All the documentation has now been delivered, and they are scheduled for a local board to renew the permit on May the 27th. I move that we grant a 90-day extension for RC 7193297 American Legion Pulaski Post number 357.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have 5 matters to add to the agenda for consideration. They are permit RR 4903885, Madam Walker Legacy Center Incorporated, RR 7138702, Western LLC, MM 4830635, Cultured Urban Winery LLC. I'll note those are all for extension. RR 4340406, Robert T. Carter. This was continued from our last meeting for consideration of a new permit. And RR 4904389, RCA Dining Services Indiana Incorporated, and that for an extension. We take it by consent to add those to the agenda.
Consent.
I'll show those added to the agenda by consent. First, for consideration is RR 4903885, Madam Walker Legacy Center Incorporated as an extension request.
Yeah, this comes to us from here in Indianapolis. It is a type 210 permit. It did expire January the 11th. They had an extension January 12th through April the 12th. They have no violations, and it is now set for the local board hearing on June the 1st. I move that we grant a 90-day extension for RR 4903885, Madam Walker Legacy Center, Inc.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next for consideration is RR 7138702, Western LLC. This comes on for an extension request.
This is a type 209 type permit. It's from South Bend. They did expire January 27th of this year. They received an extension from January 28th to April the 27th. They're now scheduled for the local board on May the 27th. I move for a 90-day extension for RR 7138702 Western LLC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. The next matter
I'm sorry, I didn't mention, I just want to mention again on this request for extension, they missed the deadline for documents to be turned in. No comment about what they've done now to make sure they don't miss it again, and just point out that, I'm sorry for that.
No, you're fine. I was going through those votes pretty quickly.
That's okay.
The next matter, MM 4830635, Cultured Urban Winery LLC. I'm recused on, so I'll turn it over to the vice chairman.
Any recommendation?
Yes, this comes to us from Anderson, Indiana. It is a farm winery. It did expire June 30th of 25. They have had 3 extensions. The first one was July the 2nd of 25 to September 30th. They had a letter of authority from October 21st to October 28th. A second extension from October 29th to November 18th, and then November 19th to January 27th. Then January 28th to February 22nd, and March the 23rd through April the 21st. They have a property tax issue that they're disputing. They have now hired counsel. This has been going on for quite some time, but I do see that they have had some recent communication with the county office regarding this dispute over the amount of the assessed amount, which they of course believe is lower and are in the process of trying to get that lowered. I will note they do not have any violations. This would be a 4th extension since they have they have no violations and they have hired counsel and there has been some recent movement on trying to get this resolved. I'm gonna move for a fourth 90-day extension. For this permit, I will just note that we do have to have the property tax clearance form before a renewal can be granted. And that is for MM 4830635 Cultured Urban Winery LLC.
I'll second the motion. Are there any comments?
No,
I would just comment that, I try to be consistent in what I do in my life and in here. And I'm been fairly consistent about voting against third or more extensions. In this case, I find reason to favor this, but I don't understand why it takes so long to get these matters resolved. This is their business, they take care of businesses, the model that I thought. So that having been said, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, all those abstaining.
Aye.
Okay, which show the matter carries, two, with no votes against and one abstention. Madam Chair, floor is yours.
All right. A permit RR 4343406, Robert T. Carter. This matter was on our last agenda for consideration of a new permit. We continued it today following receiving remonstrator information. I'll open that for discussion.
Yes, this permit is from Kosciuszko County. As our chair stated, it's up for a new permit. We did continue it from our last meeting because we had received several communications from individuals who are opposed to the issuance of this permit. I will note since that time, we have received at least one additional communication from an individual who was opposed. I will also note that the proposed owner of this business has had another permit. That permit was never placed into use. I believe it was transferred to someone else and the new owner didn't place it into use, and then it was transferred to a third owner, which has placed it into partial use. I think it's open like 2 days a week now. The proposed owner for this business, there is some criminal background that, quite frankly, the records that are in our system, I couldn't read. The font was too small and the background's very dark. I need legal to obtain new information to make sure that there's no problems there. It did look like several things have been recused. I think they may all have been, but I couldn't verify due to the small print. Because of these two issues, I'm going to move that we remand this to the Kosciuszko local board. I would like to hear from these remonstrators, and I would like legal to clarify if there's any problems with criminal background. We don't like to send back to the local board for another look, but in this case, we have had, I believe it's 4 communications from individuals who are opposed. For whatever reason, they didn't get a chance to appear at the local board. We'll share those with the local board and see if those individuals want to show up. And also have the owner there, need the owner there for any questions that we may want to ask. So remand for RR 4343406 to Kosciuszko County. That is Robert T. Carter.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Can I speak on that at all?
No.
Okay.
I would just note that one of the concerns of the remonstrators is holding all the permits in one location. That in itself is not a problem, but there is a history of letting permits sit in escrow too long, maybe not having arm's length transfers at the end of those escrow periods. So I think what I would be interested in when it goes back is for the local board to look at, and I went back and looked at the application, the statements about when will it be open? What needs to happen to open? We're pretty brief. So maybe expand on that. There's a building, what's needed for the building? Do they need to hire architects and designers? Do they need to hire contractors? Do they have those people secured? If they have those people secured, what's the timeline on that? What building permits do they need? Does it need rezoning? These are the things we frequently see as hurdles in during escrow time periods. So that's the information I'd like the local board to review and get information on from the permit holder.
And I just comment that given the nature of everything that has been accumulated over the period of time, it is very appropriate to send this back to the board to help. That's what we look to the boards to do, is to examine things and determine issues, if there are any, and then make a recommendation to this commission to consider based upon what they found out. It's not our job to do discovery and to find out these kind of answers to questions.
All right, with that, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is RR 4904-389 RCA Dining Services Indiana Incorporated. This matter comes on for an extension request.
Yes, this comes to us from Indianapolis. This permit expired just recently on April the 18th. It is a type 210 permit. I will note that we did today receive the corrective action plan on this permit. The renewal has been filed. There was a violation. The incident was in October of last year. The violation was issued in January of 26. The corrective action plan appears to address those items. They're gonna do additional checks on IDs for people who appear to be under the age of 40, front area, and then bartenders. There's security enhancement that was noted. I did really like seeing one item that was on there, and that was the free Uber and Lyft rides for anybody who appears to need them. There were other things noted in the cap. I'm gonna move that we grant an extension for 30 days. I would like to see them settle or schedule this for a hearing during the next 30-day period. And that will staff, like when we use an exact date, the exact date would be,
If we set it,
May the 19th.
you may the 19th.
So I'm gonna move that we grant an extension until May the 19th and ask that they settle or schedule this for a hearing, and that is for RR 4904-389 RCI Dining Services Indiana Inc.
And I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Since we have set this for May 19th, I think, I wrote that down correctly. Thank you. Two comments. One on the corrective action plan. Did I understand you to suggest that the violation occurred in October of 2025
Yes,
and that it was filed in January of 2020?
well, the excise only got a chance to review and get their report together and issue that in January.
Right, but
Yes.
my point is twofold. One, when was the video secure video footage provided to the law enforcement? I think maybe you've answered that now. It took some time to do that. And secondly, it states that they're actively engaged with the prosecutor in settling this matter. This is April. If I understand it was filed in January. I don't understand why it's taking so long to resolve matters. So I will be interested on May 19th to the answer to those two questions. When was footage provided and why is it taking so long to get to the point where we're now talking about settling that?
I will just note in our system, it does show a missed, settlement conference. With that, it's been moved and seconded. I would also just note, I don't know if this is just at this permittee, but just in general, while I appreciate the free Uber and Lyft rides, it's a violation to sell to an intoxicated person regardless of how they're getting home. So all of our permittees need to be mindful of not making the sale to the intoxicated person regardless of how they get home. With that, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Moving back now, to Suki Entertainment LLC, the 210 permit that now it is my understanding we approved at the prior commission agenda was for permit RR 4943597 Suki Entertainment LLC. That is the one where, following the final inspection and additional statements made about operations, the local board officer has requested remand. So I would move that we, reverse the grant of the new permit, and move for remand to the local board for permit RR 4943597 Suki Entertainment LLC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Now, next,
So the CH permit,
We bring in the.
we remanded.
I think we can remand both. But I think the concern is about the operation of the
The 210.
210 that's applying to be a restaurant without a catering hall designation.
Just clarifying.
Yeah, and I think, yes.
Thank-
Inactive files, we did receive a request, to remove RH 4930161 Fortune Hotel Group LLC. They have not filed renewals, so I would actually move that we continue it rather than remove it. Well, I'm sorry. Let me correct. We have renewals on file. They cannot be completed due to a property, DOR tax hold. So, they've indicated that they need approximately 30 days to get that resolved. And then that will, allow us to be able to renew the renewals we have on file, as long as they haven't already been refunded. That's one thing I would like, to check. But, with that, I would move to continue RH 4930161 Fortune Hotel Group LLC to our 6/2 meeting, which will be longer than 30 days, but should give them the 30 days they've requested to get that matter resolved. I also would ask that the attorney remind his client that during this time, they are not to be selling alcoholic beverages. Since it's a hotel, I don't know if the hotel remains open or not, but they are not permitted to sell any alcoholic beverages.
Second for that?
Can we take it by consent and continue that?
Okay.
All right, I will show that continued, and then that brings our permits to be made inactive from the 4/7 meeting to 21.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I incorporate by reference these list of permit applications to be made dead and hereby ask for approval of same and the inclusion of this list as part of the minutes of the April 21st, 2026 meeting, and that they be made dead on that date, on this date, April 21st, 2026.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. The 7 permits to be made inactive on 5/6, those are just being announced. If they are your permit or your client's permits, get those removed on file. Under the announcements, our next commission meeting will be Wednesday, May 6th, instead of Tuesday, due to the primary election day holiday. Now, not seeing any other items on the agenda, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So,
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries.